Okay, welcome to today's webinar. We are talking about web forms today. So web forms is a tool that's available on your website that can do a lot of cool stuff that you need to know about it. So I'm Allison James. I am presenting here with Emily Bowen. Say hello, Miss Emily.
Hello, everybody.
And we'll be your presenters today. So we kind of tag team this. And as I mentioned, one of us is always watching questions. So feel free to type away if you have any as this goes on. We're going to talk about some uses of web forms. I'll give you a few samples and then I'll hand it off to Emily. She's going to create something you might not really realize with the whole web form area. There is actually a lot of different uses and a lot of different options. It's a really cool tool. So we're going to go through those with you. We'll also talk about having like secured forms in a secured area that requires login to get to. Close it out with some tips and answer your questions. But type in your questions throughout this webinar and we will answer them. There's only 3 of you on this, but we'll do the poll question anyway. This is gives us an idea as we're speaking today on what was your motivating factor for joining the webinar. So look at your screen today. You can click on as many of these as you'd like to, so that we know during our presentation what most interests you. So now I'm seeing who's not paying attention. So one person answered. If you would please take a look at your screen, see if you could go ahead and answer the questions that are up. If not, we'll have one person's input. Oh, there we go. Phew. Jumped in. Ah, you all did it. Good deal. Thank you. When there's only 3, it's really awesome. Okay, so good. Like contact us, forums, and surveys. That's awesome. We'll talk a little bit about the applications and the rating sheets, and not that much interest on the secured web forms, but I will tell you about them anyway. But we won't spend a lot of time. That's good to know. All right, I actually hit hide results this time, Emily.
I'm proud of you.
Are you proud of me? She's like, she's ready. She's got my backup going because last time I kept talking and I forgot to hide the poll. But fortunately, she switched it up. Yeah. All right, if I'm doing this correctly, you should see a screen that says Parishioner Change Form. So I'm going to use a couple of our customer websites and show you some samples of how when each customers are using forms, some of the things that I think are kind of neat that they do. So this one is something that any of our customers might want to do is if you have a database of people and you want to update, you want to let them tell you, hey, I've had a change of address or I've had a change of phone number, or change of email. They come to your form page and they want to say they have a change. If I say, yes, my address changed, then guess what I got? I did a nice little field set here with the old address and the new address. If I say my phone number changed, so they could just pick. You could say no on one of them. It allows them to update and put in some additional information for you and then submit it in. So I think that's a nice feature within our web forms. It's called a conditional. So if they say yes, the condition is they'll get these questions. If they say no, they don't. So conditionals is a nice feature that comes with your form. And also what we've got here as well are something called field sets that allow you to lump a whole set of questions together in a box that makes it just honestly look pretty. Another thing that a lot of nonprofits will do is they'll take in-kind contributions, things like donations for silent auctions and events. So here, these guys collect old bags. It's purses. For an auction, and you can go ahead and put in what type of donation you're making, and you can upload a picture of it, your promotion, your certificate if you're giving away, let's say you're giving away a massage or gift certificate, something. They can browse and upload that item and submit it, or the logo for advertising, things like that. So that's kind of cool. Here's a volunteer form. We have a lot of nonprofits who do volunteer forms through their websites. This particular volunteer form has categories, and they made it collapsible just so it's not so long looking on the page. So you do open up each of the sections and complete the sections. Obviously, anything with an asterisk is going to be required. And so each one of these sections have different choices. And I believe there's some conditionals in here as well if they choose something else. Also, they have in here this blocked area, which is a grid, yes, no kind of questions, which is also very nice, another upload feature. But the terms and conditions, the I agree to, the check boxes, there is a lot of schools of thought out there about, do I need a digital signature? Can I just check a box? Technology and rules out there, you always can check in with a lawyer, but most will find that the checkbox agreements are pretty standard in today's world. In fact, this one is a request for disaster relief funds, and a digital signature typing their name is equivalent of signing the document. So we do see a lot of those as well. My last two little tabs here, I'm going to show them quickly because I'm going to come back to them at the end. Talk a little bit about our agency application process. It's very specific to United Way, so I'm going to hold this off to the end because I don't have only United Ways on this call. But being able to, I'm on page 2 of it, this is a 3-page application. It requires a login and them to register and to log out, and they can save a draft and come back and finish it. So that is a capability within our web form system. Also, something like setting up a secured area where your allocations team would come in and review these applications and then have their own rating sheets and score them. Also a pretty cool deal. So with that being said, what I'm going to do now is hand this off to Miss Emily. Let her go ahead and show you how to build a basic web form and go from there. So was there, as we're doing our little handoff right now, was there anything in particular that you saw in those simples that you maybe want to hear more about or you liked or was interesting? Go ahead and type your comments in the question box. And Emily, you should be getting the screen now. She's got the screen. I see it up.
And I was going to say, hopefully I have my screen out there.
We're getting smoother at this.
Yeah, we're getting a little bit better. We are professionals, I swear, guys. As Allison had mentioned, web forms can be used for a variety of applications and surveys and different types of forms. Everything is completely customizable by you. There are so many cool features, maybe too many cool features. The good thing is that you have the ability to make your web forms as simple or as oh my goodness, as advanced, I can't say that today, as advanced as you want them to be. So that way it might look, very simple on the page, but as they enter in options or select something or deselect something, maybe their options will change on the page. And, maybe an area will start to expand, or maybe an area will completely hide itself depending upon the selections that they have on the page. So you will find that your web forms can kind of be like a choose your own adventure, which I personally love, because when somebody sees, when we've all come to a form that is so long that we're like, oh, I don't even want to fill this out. Like, this is great. So you can kind of make sure that if there are parts that people don't need to fill out, if they don't qualify or they don't use a certain this, you can make sure that, they don't have to fill out extra information, or vice versa. You can make sure that they can't continue and finish filling out the form if they don't put in the required information. So a few things when it comes to web forms. Number one, if you ever wonder, hey, do I have any web forms? The answer to that is you probably do. But if you are logged into your site, if you hover over content, you should be able to see in that drop down directly under content a web forms link. If you click on web forms, you should find a listing of all of the web forms on your site. You may only have a contact us form, maybe a volunteer form, maybe you do like your newsletter through a form. If you're a Unity ministry, maybe you do a prayer request. If you guys are doing If you're a Meals on Wheels, maybe you do, meal request or volunteer information. But either way, you guys will probably, almost all of you, have at least one web form on your site. And if you can't find them, go to content, click on web forms, and you should be able to see all of them here. And from here, you'll be able to take a look. You can actually edit them if you ever need to from this page. But if you just click on the titles, it'll also just show you what those forms look like. Every web form has the ability to put information above the form on the page. So be aware, like this contact us form obviously gives me some mailing address, phone number information. But as you saw with Allison's forms examples as well, depending upon the use of this form, you might need to make sure that you're including very specific or detailed instructions on a multiple page form. And this information would appear at the top of every single one of those pages. So you can make sure if there's, instructions that people need to follow, that, as they go through pages in your form, that those are always going to be listed at the top. On this form, we are actually, this is kind of a quick and easy contact us form. We just put in, first name, last name, email address, phone number. You do not have to have all of those fields required. Hopefully you want to capture first name, last name, and email address from almost anybody that is filling out a form. However, you might have forms that require anonymity, and that's okay too. But if you are thinking about sending out like a confirmation or any sort of, thank you email or notification back to the person who filled out that form, make sure you're capturing an email address. Otherwise, you won't really be able to do that. So again, think about the things that you really will need to capture, anything that's gonna be required as you go through this. Now, as I come in here, I can start, typing in some numbers. And it's gonna, if I type in this number, you'll notice that type of phone just popped open. And I can say, oh yeah, this is my home phone, this is my office phone. I'm also asking, hey, do you want to be contacted by, I actually saw an organization use text, and I was like, oh my gosh, we've gotten to the point where texting is like a viable, response now. But you can always ask them, how would you prefer to be contacted? When they select a department, it is a great way for you to be able to make sure that depending upon maybe the department they want to capture, or not capture, but connect with, or maybe, if you serve a region, now maybe you want to make sure that they are able to connect to the, office in their specific corner of your region. You can make sure that any of these drop-down options are actually linked to an email address for a contact person. So that means that maybe the person who needs to get the general requests, probably a different person than donations or marketing or so on and so forth. So you can make sure that each one of these options is going to automatically send an email out to that person. So that way you don't have to send all of those around and send it out depending upon who they're trying to reach. So this is a great way. And Ariana, you actually asked about that a little bit too. I told her I'd give her a shout out. So you can, and I'll show you how to do this too, but you can make sure, if you're just trying to connect with a general department, you can pop in your message, submit the form, and you're good. But you can also make sure that depending upon their options, if they say, hey, I want to connect with the volunteer option, department, am I interested in volunteering? Yeah. Oh, okay. Do I have volunteer interests? Yeah, I definitely do. I've got other interests. Again, I can make sure that certain things are popping open. And that way, when this person or when this notification gets sent out to that person in the volunteer department at this organization, they will know that I'm interested in volunteering for education, and I maybe have some cool other qualifications as well. Along with this. So you can capture just a little bit of extra information without it making it seem like you are putting in, this crazy long form. So again, conditionals are really cool to help you make sure that your form is a little bit more dynamic. And I will come back to this contact us form, I promise, but I'm just going to show you one more other form. So Allison showed you a different type of survey. This one is for a really sweet, fake, super cool event that we had or did not have. And again, I'm asking for a name, email address. You know, did you attend this event? Yeah. And if you attended the event, okay, well then it pops down some of this information. And this, I could have this be collapsible if I wanted to. You know, I can, again, you know, say, okay, no, yes, I enjoyed the event. You could say, okay, why didn't you enjoy the event? I can rate everything. So it's like, okay, minor regrets, not your fault. You know, how would you rate the event? So there's, you can be as fun as you want, but you can also say, okay, did you eat at the event? If you said yes, then food pops open and then it asks you about the food options that were there, you know, and then it's like, okay, did you notice the music? Yeah, the music option pops open. So again, you can make sure that certain things are hidden or expanded depending upon the choices on this page. So there's some cool options out here. You can have a lot of fun. You can make sure that you can do this with surveys, with applications, with all kinds of forms. So conditionals can make a form look, you know, very different depending upon just one answer. So again, you know, have fun with your forms. Back to the contact us form. So just a few little things about web forms that we always want you to double check. Like I said, always keep an eye on the fields that are required. Have you gone to your contact us web form? Number one, do you have one? Number two, if you have one, when was the last time you checked to see what fields are required on your forms? You know, if they are not what you think they should be, come on in. Everybody should see a web form tab. If you're logged in, you usually should see view, edit web form results. You click on web form, that'll actually take you to the fields that you are capturing. From here, you can actually click these little check boxes to make them required. You can also edit the titles, so that way if you don't like the labels that appear over here, you can always update them. You can drag and drop these in any order you want them to appear as well. So if you add in, you know, a new field, you can drag it in the right order. You heard me mention previously that if you are going to try and send any sort of notification or confirmation back to the person who filled out this form, you are going to want to capture that email address. And I highly suggest that you make sure it's required. And number two, we want you to double check that that email address field is actually the email type of field. That means that it'll denote any email address that's put in there. It'll verify it and make sure that you can send out an email to it. If it is just a plain old text field, it will not necessarily allow you to send an email out. So again, if you are checking on these fields, double check that your email address field is an email type. And you'll actually be able to see in that kind of drop down here that you have an email type. There are a lot of other cool field types in here too that you can use. Some of them are already out on the page. You've got text fields, which are just like those smaller little boxes. You have text areas, which are kind of more like those comment or message fields, or more of a note field that's larger. You can obviously put in options. We have multiple options. You can always do drop-down options, check boxes, radio buttons. Kind of depends if you want somebody to be able to pick one option or multiple options within you know, that field, but it's easy to create these fields and manage these fields as you go through. But of course, you want to double check these fields from time to time. That will definitely help you out. As I mentioned, also, everybody should have a little conditionals link or tab up here that you can click on. You can create your own conditionals. You can edit existing conditionals. You can take old conditionals off that maybe don't really you know, aren't useful. So as you come in, you always have the ability to pop in a new conditional and say, okay, if one option is, you know, shown or not blank, or, you know, yes or no, then maybe something else happens. So you can set that action in place. So feel free to come in, create conditionals. There is a little short tutorial out on our support site that will walk you through how to create a conditional on a web form. And of course, if you have any questions, you can always reach out to Allison or I or our support team. But use conditionals. They make your form more dynamic, and they also make a larger form potentially, you know, seem a lot smaller or more organized as you go through. So feel free to use those. Under emails, dun, 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 we are always going to tell you, if you have not checked this emails tab ever or in a long time, definitely come in and do it. We want you to look for two things. Number one, in a contact us form or any other form, do you want to send out an email to the person who just filled out this form? If so, you want to double check that you're sending out an email to value of email address. And then number two, you want to check that this default email that's listed here is something that you are familiar with. Now, we see this a lot where it might be an old email address or something that's not even valid anymore. And we obviously want you guys to be able to get this, email or any notifications. So if you see an email listed here that is old, out of date, or you don't even know who that is anymore, please send in a support ticket, have our team update that for you site-wide. And in the meantime, you can always go in and edit any of the items in there. For every single message that you want to send out, whether it is a notification to the person who filled out the form or a notification to somebody at your office, you always have the option of changing the email subject. So if you don't want it to look like form submission from Contact Us, you could put in a title that's custom that says, thank you for contacting, such and such and such and such, and, with your organization name. You can put in a custom subject for that email. This email from address, the default is this one. If that is an address you do not know, please update it to a custom one that you do know will actually reach somebody at your organization. And again, send in a ticket and have our team change that one for you. But you can adjust anything from the name of your organization, to the address, the email address, I should say, as well as the email subject. Everything can be adjusted. You also have the ability to put in a little kind of thank you or confirmation or further instructions down here too. So that way in this message, this one's gonna say, hey, thanks for contacting our organization, blah, 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 blah. And then this information down here, that is all of the information they have submitted into the form. So it's going to give them a copy of everything they've submitted. Now, some of your sites might have the ability to actually send out PDFs of that information, and that's great, but you can always make sure that people have the ability to see, quick information that they have submitted into this form, and also provide them with custom, instructions or details if you need to. Okay, now we are also, in this case, as I had mentioned, depending upon the value of that department. So somebody chose the general department or volunteer or donations, depending upon the value of that department, this is actually going to send out an email to each person or to each department. Now, if the volunteer person was the same person as marketing, that's fine. You can put in your email address 2-3 times in here, as many times as you want. But this gives you the option to make sure that you're sending a very specific email out to that person instead of having to send all emails to one person, and then from there they have to kind of delegate that out. Now, I had somebody who had a big agency application for an entire state, and they actually wanted somebody, depending upon the county that they were in, they would have a different contact person for that county, and they listed out every single county in the state and had potentially one contact for each, county, or sometimes some of those counties were the same contact. But they were able to, list out, 20 counties in that. And so again, you have the ability to make sure that very specific options are reaching a very specific email or destination. Also down here, Allison had mentioned this in the last web forms as well, webinar that we had, that you have the ability for the message that is sent out to you guys in your office, you have the ability to make sure that the email address is, coming from the email address of the person that is actually filling out the form. So that way when you go to respond, you're actually going to respond to the email address of the person who filled out the form instead of, responding to like the default site email address or a custom email address. So you can make sure that if you want to make this easy for somebody, for another contact to respond right away to that person, you can always, again, change any of these defaults in the system over here and, update your form, submission information. So that way, when these emails are going out or when these notifications are going out, that they are reaching the people that they need to, and that, you're really honing in on some of those features. So again, under the little emails tab, double check that you are sending out an email to value of email address if you want the person who filled out the form to receive a notification. And then last but not least, we also want you to double check that you are indeed using the correct or most up-to-date default email address for your site. If you are not, please submit a support ticket or support conversation and have our team update that for you. We can make sure it's updated site-wide, so that way you guys are receiving any kind of messages or anything else. Okay, and then last but not least, under form settings over here, which is to the right of emails, you have the ability to put whatever confirmation message you want to show. So when somebody has submitted their information, this is the screen that would pop up and say, hey, like, you finished the form. That's awesome. Now you can continue to, have fun on our site or something else like that. You can, if you don't want to use a confirmation message, you actually do have the ability to redirect them to a specific page. So if they fill out this form, maybe they need to go to a very specific page to see further instructions or to, log into something or whatever. Who knows? There's always options. You can actually put in a specific URL. So there are ways to make sure that if you don't want to use that confirmation message up here, maybe you want to send them to a different page, that's fine. You can also limit the total submissions or, the submission per user. So if you're doing like an agency application, you can make sure that, each agency only has the ability to submit one, application per agency. You can close and open the forms. You can, choose who has the ability to actually access those forms. You can make sure that people can, save the forms, have pages. There's so many cool features within just a basic web form that you can, again, have just a couple of easy, quick fields. And of course, you can get into conditionals and really, focusing on the messages that go out to people and all of that good stuff. Okay. Are there any questions? Did I miss anything?
No questions. It's been very quiet.
Well, that's good. Okay. Excellent. Okay. So that was, again, just a couple brief kind of best practices when it comes to your web forms. And of course, if you do not know if you have web forms on your site, it's always easy to find them. Everybody should also be able to create new web forms by going to Content, Add Content, and Web Form. Did I miss anything else, Allison? I feel like it went pretty quickly, but.
Yeah, I feel like it went quickly too. We'll probably figure it out when we go back to our tips.
Probably. Okay.
Well, all right. Is it coming back at me?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and toss it back your way.
Okay. So, yep, I got it back. So I was going to continue on. I've got an echo going on.
It sounds fine to me.
Oh, fun for me. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and talk about the agency application process, or really any application process and form process that you might have, where you've got something major for people to fill out, and they need to be able to save a draft and come back and finish it. So if you start thinking about this, and do remember that you can use this for involved surveys, job applications, funding applications, scholarship applications. We've seen it used for a lot of different things that are maybe long. And if you think that when a person comes to sit down and do this, they're going to go, oh, I ran out of time, I have to go somewhere, and they want to hit a save button. How do you have that happen? How do you set up something of that magnitude? Just to give you a little glimpse into this. Now, I've actually set some permissions here. I will adjust them. First off, if you're going to do something like that, I would recommend that you could get it started, but that you have our team, the One Each team, review it to make sure that everything looks like it's set up. A couple of things that's going to happen in order to allow someone to be able to save a draft, they have to be logged in. The only way the system's going to know that they when they go back to the page that it's their page, they've got to log in. So what's cool about this, if you've ever used our system for any of our secured pages, we have secured board pages, secured volunteer pages, secured staff pages, you can actually have a login set up for any page that you have, such as this, that doesn't require One Each to go and create their secured area. This is called an authenticated user, is the terminology that's used in our system. So first thing they would have to do is register, and then when they come back, they log in, and then we encourage them to log out. So for you to know about this, as far as your forms go, and you build something like this, in the web form settings, which is your form settings down at the end here, you are going to have some choices that will allow you to set some permissions. So right now I have mine allowing anonymous users. I would actually uncheck the anonymous users, and only authenticated users can submit on this form. So I'm an authenticated user because I'm logged in at the moment, but what will then happen when we save this page and log out and go back to the page is the page will be blank except for the words at the top, and it'll encourage them to log in. But I don't want to log out and log back in because then I have to deal with CAPTCHA, and CAPTCHAs are not my friends. Other things that you'll do in the settings area under advanced settings is you're going to check a box to allow them to save as a draft. So know that there's really some cool stuff that can be happening with forms. Also realize that if you have a short little form, like a little survey or something, you can place it in a box, a block, and even place it on the home page of your site. So, you know, we know a lot of people will go and use SurveyMonkey, and they have cool survey tools to it. This system can really do your SurveyMonkey kind of stuff. What I want you to think about is your user experience. If you have different form tools, maybe you're using FormStack or you're using SurveyMonkey or different, every time they leave your site and get to one of those other things, they have a different user experience. They have a different look and feel. As much as possible to have them stay within your site structure and to stay at the same place with the same look and the same branding really benefits you and gives more validity to your site and to your platform. So now that I just checked that box, I now have a Save Draft button available to me. I'm logged in already, so it knows who I am. So if I was to do some work, save draft, and log back in, whatever I've worked on would still be here. So that is a cool thing. So that's just something we want to make sure that you're aware that the system can do. As you're working on your web forms, you can set it to multiple pages. So that's all out there. Now, another side of this that we have, and I have educational foundations, I have United Ways, I have different groups who will have a portal, a login area, secured area, if you will, for their review team. Either it's the funding reviewers for a scholarship or a grant application, or for an agency application, or for an employment application. And they set up a page for them with all of the results on that page. This is also something that you can do and have in place. For many of our nonprofits who this has been a huge paper process. It doesn't have to be a paper process anymore. It can be an electronic process. where they can go and complete this all through their online system. So what you would ultimately end up doing is adding content. If you go look at your site, this might be something you want to check out on your site. When you guys go take a look at your website, look at the word content and add content. What are your options here? Most of you will have a page. You may or may not have a blog. You have your rotor, your different things. You should have your web forms. Do you have any secured areas? Usually secured areas start with the word secured areas, secured area board, secured area staff, secured area volunteer. They want each customer. You are entitled to up to 3 secured areas. Actually, you know, we're happy to add them for you. So just let us know. If you don't see any, which means you're not using them, but you'd like to use them, you can submit a ticket to our team and ask for a secured area and give us the category. What does that mean for you? That means that when I go to content, add content, and I click on secured area for board, anyone who has a login, and when we create their username and password and their login for them, they will have access to secured board pages or allocations pages. So this is allocations review team 2000, let's call it 19. On this page, I might have American Red Cross application, oops, can't spell, so on and so forth. I could list all of the different applicants that come in, and there would be some manual work. I would actually copy their application submissions and link them on a page and link the page to here. But since you guys didn't express a huge interest in this whole configuration, I'm not going to go to those details. But what I want you to know is that a secured access could come to a page like this or to a board of directors page with minutes and treasurer's reports, and they could click on the links and they could have access to them. We could also set in here a link to a reviewing form. So in that page, and that I will go ahead and do. I'll come out here and I'll have rating form. So we can hyperlink it to a page within the site that's also going to be accessible for the secured people. We'll open in a new tab just for fun right now. So they log in, they come to their secured page. This is now the allocations team. They see the Red Cross application. They go, okay, I want to rate them. They're going to click the rating form. They're going to type in Red Cross, disaster program, and then they can fill out the rating form right here. This is much like a survey in our system. So if I rate on a scale of 1 to 6, 1 to 5, whatever, when I come to the results tab, I will actually have some results that will tell me the percentages or, you know, how high they rated on the different things so that I can use that in my funding algorithm if I have one. So there's some ideas there. Are we getting questions on this at all, Emily, or is it pretty quiet still?
Very quiet.
Very quiet. All right, guys.
Very
well,
quiet.
You know,
Silence.
full silence. So what we can do is, of course, we can give you back time in your day. This is a great time for you to dig in and ask any other questions you have. Emily might have a few more things to throw out there, but we can do our final slides and wrap up early if you'd like. But I think I saw, did a question just pop?
No, Ariana was like, hey, she's already working on implementing the thing that she was most curious about that we went over in the webinar. So she's already working. Like, she is so excited. She's already on it. That's awesome. Ooh,
there you go.
That just makes me happy.
That just makes you happy.
And for anybody else that's out there, if you have a question of, you know, would I be able to do this? You know, would my form, you know, could I use this for a form, or, you know, what's the best way to set this up? You can feel free to let us know. We always have, you know, good advice, or, you know, we can always set up some one-on-one time to kind of help you implement anything too.
Absolutely. Let's go through a couple of pointers here. These will be the things that we forgot to mention. Make sure your email replies are set up. So definitely any forms, be sure you're going out and checking all your forms that are out there. Also be aware of forms that maybe were created way before you, but they're still published. You might want to unpublish old stuff or delete old stuff because it is still findable by Googling and searching for something, even though you don't have it on your menu. If it is published, it is findable. And then for any of those forms that someone might fill out, make sure that it's set to send you an email. I do like that setting where you can set it so that when the email reply comes to you, it's coming from their email address. So you could just turn around and reply to that. Use field sets for groups of questions. We saw that in a couple of different samples that we were looking at today. So you can use a field set to organize your questions. Consider the conditionals. I really like that change form that the one organization had where, it's change address, yes, and then all these questions come up. So conditionals allow you to really be, to avoid things that you don't need. Or as an application, you can say, did you apply last year? And they say yes. And then you say, well, has any important stuff changed? And they say no. Then they can skip a whole bunch of stuff and get through it quicker. People appreciate stuff like that. What?
Oh, no, I was agreeing with you. Or vice versa. You can also use it in applications to say, do you want to, add another program or apply for another program? And then if it says yes, then it opens up another program field for you. So you can make sure that, again, certain things are, not viewable until, you want them to be.
There you go. So also the grid feature for rating things, that is great for surveys, scale of 1 to 5, scale of 1 to 7, something like that, so that you can have scores. And I really like the way the back end of the system will give you an analysis on what your scores were. Sorry, I didn't show an actual sample because there were no answers on that form, so I didn't have a sample to show. Save a draft. If you're thinking that it's a long form and they need to be able to save a draft, remember that that's going to require that you get that configured with the login and the register and the log out, which means you'll probably want our team to help you with that. Those are authenticated users in order to do that. I thought I removed that actually. So I'm going to skip that one. That has to do with something else. And you know what I just did, don't you? Come back, wherever you are. I clicked the support link. There we go. Use support. Oh, and the markups and the formatting for the pictures and the headers. You can have some formatting in there to label different sections of your web form, make it stand out. You can even add pictures in web forms. Use our support site, have them help you with anything. Consider site maintenance. It is $50 per hour, which is a pay-as-you-go kind of thing, so you can buy an hour or two and just send it to us. Especially for something that's like 3 or 4 page long kind of form, you might just want to pay us to do the form. It might be worth it to you unless you find this to be fun like Emily and I do, and you just want to do it yourself. There are those of us out there, we do know this. And
Ariana asked if they decide to try and implement some of the other stuff we were talking about today at a different time, is it considered additional programming if support helps? And the answer is, I don't think we actually showed anything on the webinar today that was custom programming.
No.
I didn't have
anything. This is all stuff
you
can do. And even with us helping you set up the log in and log out and the secure thing, that's all standard support. That comes as part of your annual fee to us. There was nothing that we showed here that we had that you would have to pay extra for it. This is all standard stuff with your site. Your site has some really, really great capabilities. We'd love you to use them.
Yeah, and if you notice certain things, like if you notice that when you create forms or that like the field labels and the fields are like check boxes and like their little labels or radio buttons and their labels really close, or there's just not enough spacing, or the spacing's weird. Those are things we always want you to take a look at and send them to our team to have them style it. So you can send in a support conversation or a support ticket for that. There's no charge to style your web forms to make sure that they look good. Also, anybody can also fill those out on a phone. So you might want to check on your phone and, you know, see how everything kind of lays out or looks on a phone too.
Very good point. Yes, always check your mobile view on those, because those can be done on a phone, and people will do them on a phone. They like to do simple stuff like that. Watch for things like the button, the circle button, or the checkbox is too close to the text and that it doesn't look good. Don't just be like, oh, I guess it's fine.
Well, that's fine.
If you don't like the way it looks, someone else doesn't like the way it looks. So we can fix that. So anything like that. Huh?
I said, it's not fine. Yeah. When people are like, I mean, it doesn't affect the functionality. And I'm like, yeah, but we want everything on your site to obviously function correctly, but we also want it to look nice while it functions correctly. So if it's only functioning correctly and not looking nice, then we haven't done our full job. So.
Yep. So it's all fixable. All right. Well, we've wrapped up like kind of early today.
I'm amazed.
So if you guys don't have any more questions, we'll let you have some time back in your day. We have recorded this. We'll send the recording back out. I'm not seeing more questions pop up. So Emily, any closing words?
No, thanks, and good luck. Have fun, and you know, feel free to let Allison and I know if you have any questions, or if you need an extra set of eyes to look over anything before you're, you know, ready to publish that form.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks, Allison.
No problem. You're welcome, you guys. Take care.